This is No Tears for Black Girls.
A Brooklyn mother is mourning her daughter, whom she believes was killed for simply asking people to stop setting off illegal fireworks. It happened in an area plagued by gun violence that only seems to be getting worse. CBS 2's Jenna DeAngelis has more.
This story transports us to the notorious pink houses of East New York, where two warring factions have been terrorizing the community for decades. Shatavia Walls, who was allegedly killed by 9D gang members in 2020, was another victim of these ruthless gangs who had a complex history. Caught between the Macballer Brims and 9D gang with their affiliates, Shatavia had already experienced 2 gunshot wounds to her thigh and faced drug charges. The unforgiving streets of East New York had taken an extreme toll on her until she decided to testify against them. The court convicted her husband Slay, a key member of the Macballer Brims, for trafficking drugs and weapons. Boss, from the Macballer side, had sold crack cocaine and heroin along Webster Avenue. "She wasn't a red, and that bastard should never have killed her," said an elder relative. "If any motherfucker ever shoots you, go testify against them." However, Shatavia's death was a tragic reminder of the hardships of living in Brooklyn's housing authority complex. This story is one we'll never forget. Shatavia walked through the minefield that was her home. Gangs with allegiances as strong as family bloodlines waged battles, bullets tearing through flesh like tissue paper. 2 shots to her thigh and a drug charge were the catalysts for her cooperation with the feds, prompting a decision that cost her life. Walls grew up in pink houses, Building 10, near the 9D gang. She learned too late that Macballer Brims had infiltrated Buildings 7 and 8 on Autumn Avenue, starting a decade-long gang war. Slay, a Macballers leader, was her spouse, and his criminal life entangled her too. Allegations stated he received his drugs from Boss, another Macballer who sold crack and heroin on Webster Avenue in the Bronx. Any dreams of freedom Shatavia, this union snuffed, may have cherished out. Shatavia Walls' death resulted in charges being brought against those involved, highlighting divisions amongst the Pink House's complex. Rab was supplying many of the Macballers, like Broadway, with illegal drugs. Their drug empire extended to Brooklyn and the Bronx and even Maine, where they were pushing heroin. The court allowed wiretaps on phones used by several people involved in the Macballer situation, confirmed Stunner's position as Dawn, a role of leadership over the whole town. In late December 2017, Slay was appointed to oversee operations in Brooklyn. Through intercepted conversations amongst members of the gang, accounts of guns, violence, and doing whatever necessary to protect their turf arose. For instance, in November 2017, during a series of calls, Slay issued a threat to an individual using a firearm from the Pink Houses. Stunner then asked Shatavia Walls to bring him a hammer downstairs, and he bragged about how close he was to being jailed for having fired his gun. A separate call between Stunner and Broadway discussed ammunition for Broadway's gun, because he had to take care of something, meaning something violent. The Macballers' resolve to protect their turf was evident, as Broadway boasted about obtaining bullets from Stunner's gun. Roach, a Macballer Brim because of his street notoriety, was the recipient of illicit substances from Boss. Though he had priors for drug offenses since the start of the 2000s, and even once being convicted of second-degree attempted murder in 2011, for which he served 6 years. On June 18, 2023, he was at 1400 Webster Avenue in the Bronx, an area known as Mac Motherland Butler Houses. Surveillance cameras caught Roach with a firearm on the same street corner that night. As he roamed away from Blink Fitness Gym, 4 shots were fired in succession. People running away in fear created a chaotic scene in the background. Roach searched for bullet fragments or casings. When New York PD officers arrived, they found a 38-year-old male had been shot in his left ankle. The criminal? Roach. The police retrieved a bullet fragment from the victim's ankle and a shell casing from the sidewalk next to Blink Fitness. This discovery would force Slay Walls, husband of Shatavia, into indictments with the Macballers in 2018. Investigations unveiled Shatavia was an enigmatic figure, operating as both a drug dealer and a nurturing mother who took care of her aunt, handled multiple jobs, and consorted with authorities when necessary. Unbeknownst to her, such behavior could generate severe repercussions amongst her enemies.